Well, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. I was having some problems with my audio, so give me some thumbs up if you can hear me okay. I've got a couple gals on with me. Shirley is here from Ohio, and somebody is saying that they are ready with Cue the Blue. So again, if you don't mind just, saying, yes, I can hear you, or giving me some thumbs up, that would be great. I think we're okay. So there's Judy from Boston. Hello, hello. Yeah, I think we're okay. It looks like everybody's good. Yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs up. So I think we're good. I think we're ready. I was having a bit of a panic because, technology works sometimes and doesn't work other times. Last week, you remember that the little jingle didn't play and I was having a bit of a panic, but this week we got to play, so that's good. It's all good. Well, welcome everybody. My name's Noreen Smith from Creative Memories. I'm the Product Development Creative Manager over at Creative Memories. It's the best job in the world. And best of all is I get to be with you guys every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central as we do some fun things. I see lots of people just saying, yeah, I've got my Cue the Blue. I'm ready for Cue the Blue. Looking forward to Cue the Blue, etc. So I am excited to play with that collection today. And yes, thank you. I'm seeing lots of thumbs up now that people can hear me. So that's great. I feel very happy that I troubleshooted that. All right. So welcome. It looks like we've got lots of folks coming from all over. I got Kentucky, Houston, Pennsylvania. That's great. Haven't seen any of our Aussie friends on yet, but they often will pop on. So let's see if we see them. Tennessee, New York, Nebraska, Massachusetts, Florida. Any Canadians out there? I hope that you're all well. We are in the middle of a cold snap, and I know that there's some wicked wild weather coming in parts of the States. So everybody stay safe. Spring is coming. It's around the corner, hopefully. And we're going to talk about that at the end of today. Okay. So today's episode is titled Frames and Chains in Vellum. Oh my, right? Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And it's really just because we've got three such fun things in this Cue the Blue collection that launched just a while ago. You saw a little bit of it last week when we were focusing on adhesives, but I created a little layout that I was sharing different aspects of with you. So you did see a little bit of it, but now we're really going to get to play with that collection a lot. So we're getting stuck in today on that. So I'm going to be sharing a bunch of samples, and we're going to be talking about three specific products. So you'll see a variety of the Cue the Blue collection, but we're going to be focusing on three things. And one is the Cloud Frame Punch. The second one is the Wispy Chain Border Maker Cartridge. And then the Cue the Blue Vellum Paper Pack. So the Frame Punch, the Wispy Chain Border Maker Cartridge, and Vellum. Frames and chains and vellum. Oh my. So let me flip you over to my table here. And let's get started. I've got a blue shirt on here today. I always like to try and match what I'm sharing with you so that I don't get too distracting. But blue is my favorite color. I know it's the favorite color for many of you. It's a universally loved color because it's so calming. It's, such a natural color, blue sky, blue water, that kind of thing. And typically it's such a universal color that it goes with everything. So I think you're going to really find that this Cue the Blue collection is going to be so versatile, right? It's nothing specific. There's no specific theme. It really is a color collection, and it's just that calming, beautiful blue. And, we've got the designer paper pack. I had a couple of the pieces of the designer paper here on last week's layout. We've got the matte pack, which I always love getting the matte packs because you can do so much with them. I used one of the matte cards here as my title. It does have an embellishment packet, which is a really nice little one because, again, there are some great title options. sorry, I should have had this open. There are some great title options, as you can see in the die cuts here. But then you've got some fun square shapes that kind of are reminiscent of tiles. So you can almost kind of create a tiled background. And then there's some circles and tags and other things. And then a whole sheet of the circle enamels. So it's a great little embellishment pack. I love that one. And then I'm also really happy that we've got a new ABC 123 sticker pack. So this is Blue Ombre Serif. So Serif meaning that it has the little extras on the end. Times New Roman is a serif, but for example, let me see, Calibria, I think, is not. So sans serif means without serif. Serif means that it has the little feet or the little end pieces at the edges of the letters. So I love that these have all of the different blues in them. That ombre pattern is gorgeous. So I am going to show you how I might use those a little bit today. And then, of course, all of the papers. But the other star that we're going to talk about is the Q the Blue Vellum. Now, the vellum is a gorgeous, heavyweight vellum. I'm going to pull all 5 pieces out here. And it comes packed a little bit differently than the regular paper. It's got a really thick chipboard inside. And it has one of the self-adhesive flap closure. So you might want to just tuck that self-adhesive flap away so it doesn't catch on anything. But here's the 5 different vellum pieces. So you have this nice sort of translucent stripe. And again, when you put something behind it, you can see the translucence. Then we have this gorgeous sort of very sort of almost wash or watercolor sort of looking. And that is quite dark. You have to have something quite light underneath it to see anything through. This one I absolutely love. This is really the star of the paper pack, this lovely vines. And then we've got some smaller vines and flowers. And again, that's quite a nice light one. And then this one is really pretty too, kind of a medium blue with all of the waves. So we're going to have fun playing around with that. And the 2 punches. So those are some of the things that you did not see. You did see a little bit of the cloud frame, how the cloud frame works on that little flap that I created last week, but we're going to play with it more specifically today. So let's get started. We're going to cover each of these items kind of one at a time, but you will see some overlap. So frame punches. This very much looks like any of our other punches. Let me grab one. So with the Scrap Happy collection, we have the scissors punch that came out. So it looks very similar, but what you'll notice that's different is there is an extra set of lines right on the base plate. So you can't see any extra lines here. You can here. It's the same amount of space. But what it is that the designers work within this space a little bit differently so that they can add that line and make the frame punch around a corner of a piece of paper. Okay, so we're going to do that. It can also create borders, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But let's go ahead. I've got a piece of the Q the Blue paper here. And to get started with it as a frame punch, just unlock it. We're going to use the lines on the front for borders, the lines on the base for frames. And the way I just remember that, it's not alliteration or anything, but frames, base, that A sort of sound. So frames, you use the lines on the base. Now you can go in this way or you can go in this way. It's really up to you. I like to feed it this way. So I'm going to put my paper in and I'm going to match the edge of the paper up with the line, the silver line on the base plate. And then I found that with this particular punch, really important to hold the rest of the paper firmly on the base plate. I even like to kind of make sure I'm pushing it up against this little lip at the back of the base plate. So let's get that set up again. Edge of the paper over at the silver line, thumb on the lip there, we punch, and then we start to move. So you can see that it's left this little tab. And that tab is going to be important when we go to turn our paper. So now we move the design that we've punched until it covers up the design that's printed on the plate. And we punch again. We just keep moving and punching, making sure we're lining it up and holding it firmly. And then we're going to basically stop when this piece, this side, gets to about the same line on the opposite side. So now we have these kind of two little tabs. You see it better that way? A little bit. Okay. So now we're going to give it a turn. And the little tab now is what will line up with the line on the base plate. Okay, so that's going to come away. And now we can just keep going. So now already you can see how that beautiful design wraps around the corner. So let's just keep going here until we have that last little tab. Turn it. Line up the tab with the line on the base plate. We're going to do it on the two remaining sides here. I'm just trying to glance up at the questions. I'm seeing just the end of a question about corners, so I'm going to have to come back to that because I don't see the whole question. Oops, and I've been forgetting to move my debris from under my punch out of the way. So I think I got a little bit of a jam up there. So if you get a jam, just turn it over, see what's jamming. I think it was just one of these little pieces did not come out. Okay, there we go. I can always take my scissors and just kind of tidy that edge up. And then our last tab, we're on our last row here. And I love to do this with a frame punch, and this makes a layout. You don't have to do almost anything else on a layout if you created this full page frame. Okay, so that is it. That's how easy it is. And look at how beautiful when you place it right on your page. Right? Isn't that gorgeous? That's all you need. It's absolutely stunning. Then you can come in here with a couple of photos. Let me see, I could get a couple of 6x4s there. Maybe a little title in a journaling box or a journaling tag on the side. I could do a couple of 4x6s with a title up above. Or I could even do some, some smaller photos. I don't have all of my photo templates handy here, but I think you get the idea. Really, you just need to kind of play around with your photo placement, but that's your page. The beautiful cloud frame around the edge is all that you need. Title, journaling, you're done. So I love how fast and easy the cloud frames, well, all the frame punches really make a page design come together quickly. Now I mentioned that you can create it as a border. Let's go ahead here. I'm going to use some baby blue. And so for our border, we're going to feed it in, but we're going to line it up with one of the lines on the front. Okay, let's get all of our debris out of here. All right, so now I've got my paper lined up with the black line on the front. Sorry, it's a little out of focus there, but you know what I'm doing. And I'm going to do the exact same thing. Hold it firm, punch, move it along, matching up the design that I've punched with the design on the base plate. And then I just keep going. And this time I'm going to go all the way. The paper is going to go all the way through. And we're going to have a beautiful 12-inch wide border. So again, just grab another piece of paper here, so that you can cut it off to whatever size you like. Add your photos up top. Title, journaling. Again, super fast. Now, I also love to play around with how you can create some other designs. So one of the things I really like to do is to get some cardstock and just start to punch and play. Okay? And you can do a double border. This is a really fun sort of double-sided border. You can see that I've turned around basically and punched the opposite side. And what I would suggest that you do when you get your punches like this, just take some of your scrap paper and cut it to various widths. This one I think was cut at 3 inches. Oh yeah, here's my little sample. So here is one that was actually cut at 3 inches. So I think this was 4 inches wide. And then I thought, how low or how small can I go? So I actually punched a strip that's 2 3/4 inches wide. And I love the result here. It looks like little fluffy clouds in the sky. And I could actually see, taking my scissors and just, cutting off one of these fluffy clouds, maybe rounding the edges just a little bit more, kind of randomly maybe, and having these, kind of single clouds just kind of floating up in the sky. So they could be little clouds. You could have a cloud border. I even think you could take this little puffy puff ball, especially if you did it in white. And wouldn't that be a cute little sheep or a lamb for, for Easter time, for example? Add some little black legs to it. So the more you play around with your punches, the more you find things that you can do with them. So I would suggest, just punch them and then write your little kind of measurements on here so that you remember what a specific width will look like. Okay. So here's just a border punch that I punched off and then trimmed. You can layer those up. It's awesome. It's such a great punch. Now, in terms of the frames, same kind of thing. We made a complete 12-inch, we took a complete 12-inch piece of paper and we made it into a frame. You can do any degree of measurement as long as it's in 2-inch increments. Okay. Oh yeah, look, I'm seeing lots of new ideas there. Somebody's saying those could be roses, definitely floral. And somebody else is saying a ball of yarn. Somebody else is saying popcorn. Lots of fun ideas. So, depending on which color you punch these from, depending on, how you kind of trim it out, and even depending on, maybe taking a pen and adding a couple little, designs or marks to it, they can look like all of those things. So I think these kinds of punches are so versatile because you can get so many different looks. So I was just going to say that, for example, here I punched these from 6 by 6 inch squares, and they kind of end up looking like, a square in the middle with the round edges. And again, these would be great frames for photos. And remember, on the page that I did last week or showed you last week, I kind of have this little bit of a frame peeking out behind a 4 by 6 mat card. So I actually started with 6 by 8. So again, play around with some of your measurements so that you know what it's going to look like. Get out your scraps. Get out your scrap paper, the ugly paper that you wouldn't necessarily use, the cardstock colors that you don't love, and just play around and get yourself a bunch of little ideas. And then play with kind of, layering them. I love the look of these two layered. Here's the blue, the navy, the white. So you can layer them and really have that ombre sort of effect going on, seeing all the colors or putting one on top. And I did even punch a circle with our circle punch because that is a perfect size to kind of fit in the center here. This is what a 4 by 4 inch square looks like after it's been punched. So again, kind of a pretty little embellishment cluster base. You can add that on there and then add a circle on top, and you've got a great little decorative element. So many things you can do. And again, I just have my little note to myself. This is a 4-inch square punched and then the circle on top. So make yourself some little kind of templates or little reminders of all of the things that you could do with some of these types of punches. Okay, so that is the cloud frame border punch. Now I just want to put these away so that they're out of the way. I love that little row of clouds. Happy little clouds. floating in the sky, channeling a little Bob Ross there. Okay, so those two are kind of my favorites with the frame punch. A page frame for a super easy page. And then that double border, I know I cut one off, but a double border of little clouds that could go up in the sky. Okay, now I'm going to say right now that you can punch with vellum. So I'll show you a couple of examples here. So here was that nice dark navy vellum, and I just punched it, and you can see that that's going to really set off the color nicely. And then I did a small frame with the lined vellum, and that was a 4x4 to start. Let's see where you can see it best. Something like that, okay? I will caution you that when you use the vellum, make sure that you are clearing out any debris. You saw how kind of I had a little pile underneath there. Go slow and move your vellum kind of very slowly, deliberately, carefully, okay? But definitely you can use the vellum as well. So let's talk about the frame. Sorry, that was the frame. Let's talk about the Wispy chain. Wispy chain border maker cartridge. All right, let me grab my border maker paper tray and the punch holder. You do need to use these with the original border maker system. Okay, so these will not work on their own. They are not a standalone punch like the border or the frame punches are. So you will need the original border maker system. I love this because it's so much smaller, right? So I have, actually, let me just flip you back over here. So you can see behind me, these are all border punches. So you can see how much space they take up. Whereas, of course, all my little border maker cartridges, they fit in a much smaller space. So I can just, interchange those. So it's a great system. And if you don't already have the original border maker system, it's definitely something that you want to grab because of that very fact. There's so many interchangeable cartridges. New ones come out all the time, if not every month, every other month. Every collection has either a punch or a border maker cartridge or a border punch. So there's always new tools. So I know that it can get to be a lot. That's one of the reasons I really, really love the border maker cartridges and the border maker system. So let's go back to my table here and let's just go ahead and punch one of these. If you've never used this, you're going to insert the border maker cartridge into the punch holder. And this basically becomes like a punch. Okay, let me grab got some navy cardstock here. I've got a couple of questions here. Let me just pause for a moment. Can we write on the vellum? Yes, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Put it through the photocopier? Yes. The printed vellum is a little bit harder to see printed text on. I did do a little bit of a try, but it's a little bit busy. Clear vellum or plain vellum is better for that. Okay, when you cut the borders, how do you measure the width? Do you start with a strip that is 3 inches wide and then cut each side? Or do you punch one side and then cut to 3? Great question. And I did not make that clear. So on my little templates that I made, this one started with a 2 3/4 inch wide strip of paper. I punched one side, then turned it over and punched the other. This one started with a 3 inch wide strip of paper. So if I mentioned those measurements for these double-sided borders, those are the measurements that you cut your strip before you start punching, okay? Something like this, after I've punched a strip, then I could say punch and cut to whatever. So that would be punch and cut to 1.5 inches. So that is a 1.5 inch border that I've punched and then cut to size. The double borders, I always start with my strip punched to the correct size. And that's why I say to make the little templates for yourself so that you don't have to, try it again and again. You've got your measurements. You can say, oh yeah, if I want it to be very close together and look like little clouds, I need to start with 2 3/4. If I just want a more decorative, decorative look, and maybe I'm going to run a strip of paper down the center. I think this one, as I said, was 4 inches. Okay, so you're just going to make some with scrap paper and then write your measurements on those little templates so that you can revisit them and you know exactly what size you need to start your strips with. Okay, excellent question, and I'm sorry I didn't address that before. Okay, but let's go ahead and do our wispy chain. So I'm taking the straight edge, 12-inch edge of a piece of paper. I've opened up the paper tray. If you didn't see me do that, because we kind of got waylaid. But basically, I open up the gray paper tray. It snaps into place. And then I lift up the blue magnet arm, put the paper in, magnet down, and then I fold the black paper or the gray paper tray away, and it sort of snaps back into place. And although this looks really funny, it's holding the border, it's holding the paper at the exact right place to go inside the border maker cartridge. So I think I've said this before, but on the cartridges, there's little teeth, and on the tray, the back of the tray, there's little notches. So the teeth and the notches fit together, and that's what holds it in place so that you can punch. So you just kind of put it in at the bottom. You can feel when it locks in place, it won't move. Punch, slide it up. And once you do it a couple of times, I know when I first saw this, I thought, how the heck does that work? But after you punched 1 or 2 times, you will feel how to move it along. You don't have to stop and pause. You just go, go, go. So there's the wispy chain. Now, before I go on to show a couple of ideas for using that, I just want to talk really quickly about border maker cartridges and the fact that we have naming conventions for them, and that why this is called wispy chain. So we have 3 types of border maker cartridges. Those that create a chain style border that actually separates itself from the paper. So this came off. I didn't have to do any extra punching. We also have edge style borders, and maybe I'll just go ahead and punch just a couple of punches with that so that you can see. This is the Flourish edge style border maker cartridge, but we just call it Flourish. And very much like the frame or the punches that we were looking at earlier, it leaves the punch design attached to the paper. Okay, so that is an edge punch. And then the third style we have is more of a punch that deals with negative shapes. So you can call this a punch out style or negative shape style, but you can see that the entire back is completely full of the silver metal, and all of these shapes that you can see will punch out. So it will leave a design punched in the actual paper. This is the bats and stars. So you can see that the punch debris in this one actually is recognizable shapes. So we have ones that look like little boots, the stars. We've had ones that, actually the other one that's current is the ancient key. And even though there was a mistake in the naming on the box, the ancient key basically punches out that key shape design. That was the one that came out last week. So that's the way that you can tell the 3 different types of border maker cartridges. Okay, so you've got chain style, which separates itself completely from the paper. You've got edge style, so you can see that the metal is solid on one edge, but it's open on the other side. So that's what gets punched away. And then both of these are punch out style or negative shape style, where the shapes get punched out as opposed to, a chain style gets punched out. So I know that that's a lot, and if it's the first time you've ever seen the Border Maker cartridge, you're saying, I have no idea what she's talking about. But it's just a really good refresher, and we always get questions as to what a chain style Border Maker cartridge is. That is one that completely punches away from the paper, and that's the only one that we actually indicate the style name, okay? And yes, bats. What was I saying? Did I say something different? Somebody's saying, do you mean bats? What was I saying? I don't know. Sometimes I just keep talking and I think I'm saying the right thing, but maybe I didn't. But yeah, this is the Bats and Stars. Bats and Stars. Ancient key. And again, I think the little glitch that was with that one is that the name of that was supposed to be Ancient Keychain, like that, all one word. But then on the on the box, it got separated and it looks like a chain Border Maker style cartridge. So it's actually Ancient Key or Ancient Keychain, and it is not a chain style Border Maker cartridge. Okay, so enough lessons for today. There's the teacher in me. Let's get back to playing with the Wispy chain. And I love the look of having a variety of colors and then kind of stacking it and making that ombre look. Just like we were talking about with the ombre letters, I love the look of this in an ombre fashion. So I've got navy and then blue, and I've just moved the blue slightly so that you don't see the holes. The color beneath it kind of shows through instead. And I mean, then you can go in with the baby blue, and repositionable adhesive is going to be your best friend for this, okay? Because you can start to, just go over these very quickly. And as you adhere them, you're going to have some give so that you can move them around to the exact right spot. So I love that look, but I want to show you one quick idea with the Wispy chain that creates a chain style frame, kind of similar to what we did with the cloud frame punch. So let me just adhere these so they're all together and I can set them aside as one piece. But yeah, isn't that pretty? I love that sort of ombre layered look. So you can make a pair of those, put those top and bottom across your page, right? And it has that sort of wavy, wispy look to it. So borders are always great because a couple of borders on your page, and then again, you know me, and I've got my little DIY photo templates, but you can come in and start, deciding what size. I think this is a 3x4 or 4x3, but you can start deciding what size of photos will work in that space, etc. Okay, and of course, your borders could also go sideways. All right, so tons and tons of options. I love to leave little nooks and crannies here to put embellishments, titles, journaling, that kind of stuff. So super easy to have beautiful borders and then create a page. All right, let me show you though how we can create, I think I want to use this one. Let me show you how we can create a frame style page with the Wispy chain Border Maker cartridge. All right, where's my paper tray? All right, let's go here. We're going to put this in just like normal, full 12 by 12 inch size paper. Fold our paper tray back. Instead of starting at the end, either end, we're going to start one notch in. So you can see on the guide here, there are these little manufacturer markings, and that just kind of gives you a reminder or a guide of where to place. So I'm going to skip one, start at the second marking. I'm going to punch 4 times. Okay, and then I have this sort of floating chain, which looks really cool. Then we're going to do that on each side. How are we doing for time? Oh man, I'm talking a lot today. I'll do this quick. We're going to do this on all 4 sides. And then this is going to be a lovely decorative page that, again, you can just add to a base page, an album refill page, a piece of cardstock, another piece of the Cue the Blue paper. And it's going to be a stunning design. And I love that they look so intricate. And people will look at them and say, how did you do that? But really, we're relying on our tools, and we're just using them in different ways, changing them up a bit. Okay? So there we go. Here's our full size. Push it out that way. Our full size sort of chain frame. And again, when you place it onto, let's try a darker. Let's do a darker one. When you place it onto a darker or contrasting piece of base paper, you know, that's all you need. It looks so lovely, and you haven't really done much at all. It took us all of, 2 minutes there. So again, you can get your photos in, little title up there, and a beautiful, beautiful page. Now, I do want to say that you can use the Wispy chain with the vellum, but it is very delicate, and I did rip several pieces, okay? But it is so pretty when you do. Take your time, put it in very carefully, and when you're moving your cartridge, pull it away from the paper before you move it up or down to the next punch. So that's really pretty. And then I did try the frame style on a piece of vellum, and what I decided is that I wanted to cut the edges off. So look at how pretty if we take our paper trimmer and just trim off these borders. This is what we get. And the Wispy chain is very delicate. So isn't that lovely? So we've got a whole other look if you want to basically just, I need a different color now. Hang on. Always shows up better on the contrasting colors. So look at that. Isn't that really pretty? And all I've done was go ahead and cut down the sides and the top of my frame, and that gave me 4 borders. So I basically took this, put it in my paper trimmer, and just trimmed it at 1/8 of an inch. Okay? Isn't that pretty? So, I mean, you could use that on 2 different layouts, right? You could have that on one layout and then use this another place as, a little decorative embellishment. Okay? So I love that. Again, trying to be as versatile as we possibly can. So we've done a few things with vellum, but let's spend the last few minutes here really focusing on vellum. So as I mentioned, of course, you can go ahead and punch it. You can create your little borders. I'll leave, one of them fell here, sorry. I'll leave all of those just off to the side here so we can kind of refer to them. But you can do all of the same things that you can with your other papers. But here's a few other ideas, because I know people are saying, what do I use vellum for? What are some different ideas? So let's go ahead and talk about what I like to do with vellum that's just a little bit different. So I will often go ahead and mat my photos with vellum. So here I've got, I think it's 4.5 by 6.5, 4 by 6 photo, and then a 4.25 by 6.25 inch piece of vellum. So that is always a really pretty way. It's not too contrasting, but it gives a nice little layer. But the other thing I like to do, instead of having my vellum below, is I like to put my vellum above as a frame and use my custom cutting system. That's the oval with the red blade. And basically I've cut out a little frame. I can still see some of the other details of the photo behind, but the focal point of the photo really is, it really gets its attention drawn. So again, a solid piece of vellum as a layer, behind your photo to mat it, or take that same size just slightly bigger than the photo, and cut a piece from it with your custom cutting system. Now, don't throw this away, because of course you could go ahead and cut lots of different things. You can cut circles or trim it into smaller shapes. You could cut some flowers, punch some flowers. This is the Mandevilla flower punch. So, you know, I think all of those ideas are great. Now, somebody just put up on the screen there, how do you use adhesive? You can use regular adhesive. It will show through a little bit. So if I did just have my tape runner or my repositionable tape runner, I could use those and make them work in a pinch. If I had a little bit of tape runner adhesive that, you know, kind of shows through just a little bit, say I get that all lined up, so I can see a little bit of a white dot. It's really not too bad though, right? But I could take one of my embellishments, a little, you know, adhesive, or a little self-adhesive enamel dot, anything like that, and I could just put that over top here to kind of hide it, or, you know, cover it with another embellishment. So if you're really stuck, your regular adhesives will work. But if you were with me last week, we talked about vellum adhesive. So again, the great thing about our tape runners, they're all the same size, so you can interchange them, and then the different colors tell you the different types of adhesive. So the Vellum tape runner cartridge, refill cartridge, is blue. So I just keep mine in an extra, and I just labeled it with, you know, my regular label maker. And I'm going to go ahead and do it down here in the other corner, and I'll just do it right onto the vellum here. Sorry. Okay, and it's almost like, some of you will know the term snail adhesive. So there are no segments, and it almost has that sort of stretchy feel to it. Okay, but when I put it over top of my photo and take my multi-purpose tool or a burnisher and just rub it, burnishing is the key. You barely see it. You do see a little bit of a glob there because I was stretching it to show you. But there's the white regular tape runner adhesive. There's the corner that has the vellum adhesive. So really the key is to make sure that you have burnished it. So now right there you can see it. You can see the line. But when you rub your multi-purpose tool over it, it disappears. So don't forget, that's a real key. When you're using vellum adhesive, use you know, a bone folder, you know, use your multi-purpose tool, use the, you know, the firm end of a brush, anything you have. Even your finger will work in a pinch. You might have to do it a little bit more, but just remember to burnish it. Just pressing and rubbing, and that will really make that vellum adhesive sort of stick and disappear. Okay, so great question, and you guys got to that before I even was going to tell you. So you guys were anticipating that. Let's talk about a couple other things with vellum. I always like the look of torn vellum. Now, it's not a solid core, but because of, you can see where I've cut it here. So when you rip it, you can see that it kind of exposes a little bit of a white edge, and that's just the layers of the paper pulp that get made. So I love that idea, and that's a really pretty way to kind of mat your photo as well. Have a dark base layer on your mat, and then rip the edges of your vellum, and then put your photo on top. So that's a fun way to do it. And even just look at that. I love a little row of torn vellum with all these blues, of course, you know, all of these nice strips of torn vellum. Those would be great on a page. Let me get that dark navy one again. You know, I can just imagine all of the different types of vellum that we've got in this collection. Strips of those just layered together. So I think that would be a really, really pretty and fun way to, you know, make waves on a beach or something like that. So don't forget about ripping your vellum. Of course, we can punch it. Of course, we can cut it into shapes. But don't forget about ripping it. Now, somebody was asking earlier about writing on it. Now, I really like this particular paper because it's already got some lines on it. So I'm really pleased with that because I can take, I've got 3 different pens here, so we can do a little bit of a experiment. I can just take my regular dual tip pens and I can write my journaling. Okay, so there's black, and then let's just go, I'll just write the word write. That's black dual tip. There's the silver. That's always pretty. That would be really nice, actually, of course, on the darker colors. So the nice thing is that these don't smear. Here's the navy. And here's the bold tip of the navy. And I like this the best, I think, because it's the most colorful. Okay? So you can see how all of those pens, they're just our regular double dual tip pens. And I love that you can write right on this. Now, again, I think that they're okay. Yeah, they're not smearing on me at all. I would always wait a little bit extra because there's no tooth, there's no texture to vellum. It's very smooth, and that's why you get the smearing. Okay, so if you do choose to write on it, if you do choose to put this through a printer to write some journaling, do just let it sit so that the ink can completely dry. Another thing, oh, and then of course, if we put it on, on a contrasting, let me see if I just have a piece of white. I think you'd be able to read that quite nicely. Yeah. So if you put that over top of white, you'd be able to see that really, really easily. So I love the lined paper in this particular pack because you're going to be able to journal on it. Okay, so we've done a few different things. I got a couple more ideas for you. Don't go away yet. And I see that we've got some new gals sort of joining in with us. If you're just joining us, welcome. And remember that you can always go back and start at the beginning after we finish the live feed. So if you're just joining in, you're kind of joining in the middle or near the end, don't forget you can always come back and watch this completely again. Okay, so I wanted to try the stickers. So here again, I've done kind of double duty. So I've punched with the cloud frame punch, and then I've used those gorgeous ombre stickers, ABC 123 stickers, and that would be a really fun, let me get some other pieces here. So that would be a really fun little border. I could put some white behind it. I would maybe cut my piece of white, a little bit bigger. Let's try a piece of blue. I know I had a bigger piece of blue. Right, so something like that. Or even just on that dark paper, there's a nice contrast there. There it is on the dark vellum as well. So using it as title blocks, of course, you could cut this down. You could punch out squares. Let me grab my square punch here, right? That is always a fun way to make titles. So just, cutting or punching some squares out of various different vellums, and then putting some of those, there we go, putting some of those stickers, letter stickers on top. Okay, so those were the ombre stickers. So I love that. I think that looks really cute as well. So we've got lots of options for actually using it on your pages, matting your photos, writing on it, ripping it, having it as a little decorative embellishment. Okay, I'm going to show this, and I don't want you to yell at me, but how cute would a little vellum envelope be? Isn't that darling? So I've just used the floral vine, and here's just a little, tiny little note card you could make. And what I love about it is, I've got just you make me smile on the front. And when you put it in, you're going to kind of see a little bit of that embellishment or the little bit of the design in there. So what I said, don't yell at me, is because right now the envelope and border maker that I used to make this is out of stock. Many of you joined me way back in October, and we made envelopes and bows galore. But I just thought I had to try it with the vellum. Now, if you love that idea, make sure that you watch because the Envelope and Bow Creator is coming back later in March. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm sure we'll have to have another little session about it. But not only could you make an envelope for, to actually send or give a card, but that would be really cute for a little photo. I'm not sure how wide this is, but you could put it on a page and have your little photo kind of popping out, right? So that's another way you could actually have it on a scrapbook page, or you could have little shapes coming out. That's always really cute too. And I know that we talked last week about brochure pockets. I think you could also make great little pockets from your vellum pieces. So again, I would just take my piece of vellum. I would take my 1 1/4 inch circle punch. I would just kind of cut half of a notch there. And then I would use my vellum adhesive. Man, I'm getting messy here. I'd use my vellum adhesive. You can see why it's called sort of that snail adhesive, because it kind of stretches. And then when I add that to my page and burnish it, don't forget burnishing is the key. Where is my multi-purpose tool? So burnishing is the key. Just make sure you go over that adhesive. And there's, again, a nice, sturdy pocket. It's adhered on 3 sides. And whether you have a photo, a letter, whatever you want to tuck in there, it'll be okay. All right. So envelopes, pockets, photo mats, all that good stuff. But I want to finish off with one more idea. If you remember, let me grab it. When we saw the 5 different pages, this one I think is really the star of the show. So I wanted to think about how could I do something special with that particular vellum piece. So what I decided to do, got a couple photos here. I cut it down just a little bit, and I'm going to use it as a kind of a frame. But again, mounting it on a contrasting piece of paper is what's really important. And then instead of using my oval custom cutting system pattern, I decided I'd go back, dig through, pull out one of my rectangles. So I've gone ahead and I've actually cut out 2 rectangles here. And again, just like we did with the photo mats, now I can slide my photos behind. There's hubby and I at a wine tasting. No wonder we're smiling, eh? But then you really see all of the beautiful features from that particular paper, okay? So when you really want to preserve, a beautiful vellum page like that, think about cutting out the pieces as opposed to putting the photos on top. It's just a little bit more interesting, and you kind of get the sense that there's something special about it. So I love that idea. And again, I could take some of my beautiful, maybe a glorious day, I think is in there, and do a little bit of journaling right on the vellum, add a couple of my embellishments, and then maybe just finish off with one of my little, wispy chains across the top. So super easy to use these products, especially the vellum, if you're thinking a little bit differently. So instead of, just using it as a base page, make sure that, it kind of sets itself apart from the base page. Save all your little pieces, punch out some additional shapes, work with your, your borders and your other tools to come up with some, original or different or unusual. Let me see if I can get a contrasting color here. An unusual way to create some of these ideas. Okay? So I love it. I think all of these are so pretty. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, because I know that so many of you are going to love this collection for all of your different things. Like, here's, like I said, wine tasting. And then this was a photo, just taken sitting in the living room. So it's such a versatile and beautiful collection. And that blue is going to be gorgeous with so many different photos. Okay. So whether you decide to use the frame to make a chain, right? And whether or not you use the vellum, I think that this Cue the Blue collection is absolutely stunning, and I love it. So I am going to come on back and chat with you here. I've seen lots and lots of comments come up here. One of the ones I keep seeing is that I wasn't going to buy that, and then I see you do something with it, and then I have to buy it. I'm sorry. I don't want to be an enabler. What I want to do is really give you enough information and ideas so that the things that you do choose to buy, you can get the most use out of, right? These are not, by any stretch of the imagination, one-shot deals. Just even that first one, we could have done the whole hour playing with this and thinking of different things to do with the cloud punch, the cloud frame punch. Okay. So again, my intent is always to just give you ideas, to help you kind of think outside the box a little bit, and encourage you to play and try things, and again, get your scraps and make your little templates. Just play around. One of the things that I always used to say to my students was, what if? What if you punched this? What if you did a double punch? What if you flipped it over? What if you cut it apart? What if you added it together? So having that mentality of what if? What can I do with this? How will this work? Let me play with it. All of those things are wonderful, and I hope that it gives you permission to play, because we don't play enough in our lives, okay? All right. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm seeing a bunch of different things going over there, so I'm not sure what are the most recent what are the most recent comments or not. But I will try to go back through and answer any questions. And again, we'd love to see some of your ideas using these products. Okay, so write on it, punch it, and then do all the things, and then show us your layouts. Make sure you put them in the virtual crop Facebook group. And I think that in my kerfuffleness at the beginning, I forgot to welcome people on YouTube and on Facebook. And as always, a big reminder, make sure you go to the other platform. Make sure that you're signed up there. YouTube, the Creative Memories YouTube channel, and the Creative Memories Virtual Crop Facebook group, so that you see everything that we do and everything that's going on, because there's ideas galore. Okay. I can't believe I've been with you for an hour today. Thanks for sticking in there, hanging in there with me. And I really appreciate you spending the time with me. Next week, as I mentioned, it's hard to believe that it is March 1st. Spring is around the corner. Just keep that in mind if you are in a snowy climate, or if you're going to be weathering this horrible storm that's coming across the States here soon. Spring is around the corner. Next week, we are going to be playing with some beautiful new spring scrapbooking supplies. And I can't even give you a list or tell you anything about them, because they haven't even launched yet. So that's a little teaser for you to make sure you come back next Wednesday, March 1st, 5 p.m. Central Time, in either the Facebook group or on the YouTube channel. And we will be playing and creating with new spring themed scrapbooking products. Okay? Awesome. Thanks again for spending this time with me. I always enjoy it. I have as much fun as I hope you do. And I hope you have a great week playing. All right? Give yourself permission to play. Bye for now.